Yeah, we're laughing. I don't know. There's a lot going on. As you can see from the thumbnail, I was just over at the chassis dyno side because I heard something that sounded like it was boost. Sounds like it was coming up on the boost, which was very cool. As it turned out to be a track. The car, I think, was originally started out as a 911 SC, so 70s era, late 70s era, and now is a big spoilered, big splittered 3.6 liter with a turbo on it, making pretty good power. They made some hits that were over 700 horsepower at I don't know, 16 pounds or 17 pounds or something like that. So it was pretty cool, and it sounds good. It's revving out pretty well, and it's got a good power curve, especially for a car. So it, those cars are very light. That particular one, especially, and has now downforce with all the wings he's put on it. So it's got plenty of power. He doesn't run it at that on the track at that power level because apparently that's there's no need to do that. He's doing just fine at the lower power levels he's running at. But it's cool because even air-cooled Porsche motors, well, maybe especially air-cooled Porsche motors, are better with boost. So it's just cool to get over there and see something different. We see a lot of typical kinds of V8 stuff, LS stuff, big blocks, small blocks, all of that. But occasionally they'll come in on a trailer and there'll be some kind of race car, and it'll be cool to see that tested. I do like when they bring in some of the, like when Bonneville starts happening, when that starts getting close, the Bonneville cars start coming in, which is also cool because, Bonneville is just kind of cool. So today, what I did is a couple things. I ended up, Casey, if you're here, we did, I did get the cleaner working. I didn't, Eric did. What I did was put I put the wrong liquid into the cleaning. I put the flowing solution into the cleaner, which is anonymous, which was I mean, it's not terrible, but the problem is that it's not, it doesn't conduct electricity. And so the sensor is not registering that there's more liquid in there. So we had to fix that. And once we fixed that, we could clean them. We did clean them, and now they're flowing like, I think that we measured them again. They're like 52 pounds an hour or whatever, which is enough on an NA motor on a V8 to make 800 horsepower, on a small block or on a 4-cylinder, enough to make 400 horsepower. So you got a lot of fuel there, especially for gas. Even on E85, it would be more than enough. I think you're talking about making 200 horsepower, and it did even them out. I'll send you a picture of the lines. Eric actually reflowed them after we went through the cleaning cycle because I was over here doing the 5.3 stuff, and I didn't even know he was going to do that. After it had gone through the cleaning cycle, he came over and said, "Here." I'm like, "Well, look at that. That's nice and even." He goes, "Yeah, I already flowed them." I'm like, "Dude, you rock. That's awesome." But I've got the 5.3 L33 up in the dyno running cam tests. I have run the sloppy stage 2 is in there now. We can go back there and make a run if you guys want. Get to hear some dyno noises, which is good. The Truck Norris and the low lift Truck Norris cam also about a 7 horsepower spread between those two, not really very much. And at 498 lift, you can run them, which is cool. On that Truck Norris the low lift, the NSR cam, you can run that with the 706 springs, which is really, really kind of cool. So you don't even have to change the springs. I'll talk to Brian Tullier about it, and he said, yeah, I thought that cam would kind of be a better seller because guys don't have to change the springs. But when guys are getting those cams, they're like, it's old and it's got a bunch of miles on it. I probably want to put springs on it anyway. And so they end up getting the regular Truck Norris cam because they're getting springs. So where are the guys out there that don't want to change springs? That's actually a pretty good camshaft because it's making good power. Sloppy Stage 2 is still doing the same thing. The last time I ran it was a little bit different configuration. It ran with a slightly bigger header and also ran with the E85. Now it's got an 1.75-inch header. It's running on 91. I think it's 3 or 4 horsepower different. So we can argue about that all that you want. That's why we reestablish a baseline, get it tuned, and start correcting everything. But it's right there, so it's good stuff. I also run both of those, the Elgin Pro Stock cams, test on those. And if it all goes well, and it goes really well, I'm going to be running So the other thing I did today was on the flow bench on the 2.2 liter head, people were questioning whether or not the flow numbers were accurate because it's the internet. So what I did was put the swirl head, which flowed the least, put the swirl head back on, reflowed the port that I flowed before, and it duplicated exactly. It was less. I don't even think it was a half CFM. It was right. It was right exactly there. Which it's funny that one of the guys in the comments mentioned the fact that, oh, he's making an entry out of clay, and so it's not the same every time. So that that's a few CFM. I'm like, no, it's not. And I know that because I had to take the head back off, so I had to take the clay back off and put the clay back on. And after reshipping it, and I've done this test actually a couple of times, the shape of that clay is not ultra critical. And I say that only because I have done this back-to-back test. I just took the clay off and put it back on and reshaped it and ran it, and it just flowed the same. I also had, when I was here before, I was flowing another head. I can't remember if it was an LS or a small block or whatever, and Tony Mammo was here. And so I said, Tony, come over here. You make a bunch of these entries. You float a bunch of heads. I said, when I'm testing this, you can move it around and put a different radius on it and change the angle of attack and all that stuff. I said, it doesn't seem to really make too much of a difference. I said, I want you to come over here. Here's my flow number. You can see what it is that we were flowing at 600 lift. Here's what it is when it stabilizes. You can look at that and see. Now I want you to try to do something on this that makes it better than mine. I'm not a head porter. I'm not a head flow expert. I have flowed hundreds of heads on the flow bench. But I wanted to see if there was something that, because we get myopic and if we're looking at it one way, we're trying to do something, that's the way that we do it. And, so a lot of guys won't go out of their comfort zone or try something different. So it's good to get another set of eyes on it, get another person trying it, and he tried it and it was exactly the same. So it's not a better or worse thing. It's just that's how the thing responds, and it wants this kind of entry. And as long as you give it this kind of entry, it's working. Now, if you don't have an entry on there, that's naturally a big difference. So you definitely want to have an entry on there. And then, when you flow it, and the same thing with a pipe. I did an interesting test with the pipes. I tried 2 different diameter pipes. One of them that actually fit fairly well, although it was a round pipe, and that's kind of, it's a round pipe and square hole kind of thing. But at least the edges were closer to matching. And it didn't like that. It liked having an oversized tubing on it so that it had edge when it came out, and it flowed better like that. So, all the people that wanted to port match it to their header, probably not a good idea. So as you can tell, it's been a pretty busy day. I was going to try to do a live feed this morning again, but I got wrapped up. And what happened is I walked in. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a live feed this morning. It's early enough. We can talk about lots of cool stuff. What I'm going to do, what's going on. We can take a look at all the cool stuff that's up. There's a turbo motor in the dyno that the guys have up for engine masters that they're going to be running next week. We can take a look at that. All of that's cool stuff. And then I started thinking about the head. I'm like, I'm just going to put it up there really quick and see what's going on. And then once you go down that path, then it's like, okay, now I got to do all this other stuff. I'm going to flow this port. Now I got to move it over and flow another port. I got to reconfigure it and take the springs off and reset the springs up, set the checker springs up and stuff. And, it's just a lot of stuff. That's what happens. What else am I going to try to do on the 5.3? So we got 2 LS motors. Since I'm doing LS stuff, I might just also try to get the 4.8 up there and just see if it's going to work. And if it does, I'm going to bring it back to Oliver and actually let him put it in the Nova. And we'll get that working probably with a carburetor. So that'll be interesting. It's Friday night. Yeah, it's Friday. Sound like max headroom. I did select another mic, so this mic should actually be working better. So we can reposition that and see. So let's see what you guys got going on. I put up the photo of the Porsche in honor of Dan, who's a Porsche guy's always working on his Porsche stuff. So on his budget Porsche builds, this is obviously compared to full on like factory race cars. That's very budget, and it's very fast for being a budget. Let's see, we'll be live. We already tested it. We talked about that. We did flow them, we cleaned it, and it did improve them. They're nice and even now, and so I'll be able to send those back. Oh, that's the other thing I wanted to do is Casey, the thing that you sent me arrived in the mail, so we can open that up today. We can do an unboxing. We'll take a walk. We'll take a little stroll first, then we can come back here and we'll do an unboxing. I got to walk over and grab it on our way. Intercooler. Take a look and see some of the stuff that's up here. So there's this. And I'll tell you what, now I was telling Troy, I got turbo entry envy. That's kind of cool. So David Freiberger, if you're ever watching any of this, that is super cool. And now I must get one or two or a bunch of those now from wherever they came from. Probably Summit or something. I think I need to get some of those for my turbos just so I have them on there so that they look cool when I take the videos. Oh, here we go. So I got a package. See, Casey sent the injectors over that we flowed. Take a walk in here. Take a look. Yep, looks like a junkyard L33 LS. Stock manual truck throttle body and truck intake manifold. This one has inches recorded. Those are QTP headers, I think, with 3-inch extension or collector extensions on them. They're about 18 inches or 20 inches or so, but they're 3 inches in diameter. Oh, my camera's freaking out now. Stop freaking out. Silly camera. So we'll walk back over here and I'll get this thing to cooperate again. Camera everywhere. And we'll see what's in the box. Hope it's something cool. I hope it's a pizza. Okay, let's get you back up in your position here. There we go. Hey, my camera's happy again. Okay, let's get you plugged in again. All right, Troy, man, we'll see you. I got a box. Yeah, just close it. Thanks, man. Oh, cool. Nice. What do you see? This is very cool. Let's see. Turbo and High Performance magazine. Turbo and High Performance. This is a Skyline GTR 2000. Muscle Machines. I've never seen one of these. That is cool. Turbo and high tech. Wow. I wonder where they got that logo from. Because I don't think Kip's, is that magazine still being published now? Or are these old ones? This is kind of cool. Got more. Oh, import tuner. Yeah. So look at that. Import tuner. Datsun. A hopped up 240 with a big wing on it, flares on it. Nice, the hood opens up and stuff. Thanks, Casey, that's super cool. I'll have to put those up in my room. Another Datsun 240, a white one, which is what the color of mine is. That's cool. Look at that. Muscle Machines. Try to get it so that trying to get some of the glare off. But there we go. It's pretty cool. Dude, thanks, man. That's kind of even better than a pizza, I think. Although pizza would be nice. So we can go over, if you guys want, we can go over and make a pull on the dyno and just, you know, listen to the sweet, sweet music of the LS at song. We'll rev it all the way up to, yeah, the radius entry in that thing is nice. We'll rev it all the way up to, I think it's going to 6,700, although that's past the, definitely past the power peak. Mike, these things are worth money. I just think that they're cool. I've never seen them before. I've never seen the, I was surprised that it's turbo high tech. It brings back memories of my, that's the first story that I ever wrote was for Kip at Turbo. I would want a Le Mans C4 Corvette. Make Hot Wheels. Yeah, Dan, did you see that photo? That's for you. The guy was making, he had a turbo Porsche. Originally some sort of late 70s 911 SC. Richard, what are you going to use for an ECU on the 2.2? If you take a look at the video that I have up already, we've already run it and started, well, we haven't run it. We've started it and we ran it on an engine stand with the Holly already because I modified a factory distributor in the motor that I'm going to run on the 2.2 as a 4S on there, and we've already run it with the Holly, so we'll tune it with the Holly so that we know that it will have the right tune. It will have the right air fuel and it will have the timing, and the timing won't self-adjust. It won't move on us. It won't change. We'll determine what air fuel that we want and we'll determine what timing we want, and then when we make a change, it will also be optimized. So when we run one intake manifold, it will be right. When we run another intake manifold, it will be right. And then the difference will just be whatever the intake manifold. It's an interesting thing because the cylinder head is going to be a thing. I can already see that based on, I reported the flow numbers for the G head, the bathtub head, and for the swirl head. And everybody's saying, no, that's too big of a difference. Not everybody. There are people saying that's too big of a difference. That's not what we see. That's not what we've seen for the last 10 years or 15 years or 20 years or whatever. And I'm like, look, if you have airflow data, back-to-back airflow data on the same flow bench on the same day with the same setup, I'm okay. And then there's all these attempts to dismiss it. Oh, you didn't use the right bore size. I was like, use a 3.5 inch bore size. We didn't use a 4125 V8 bore size. We used the right size bore size. It would be nice to have exactly what the bore size is, but we only had something that was slightly smaller than the factory bore size or one that was slightly bigger than the factory bore size. So I went just a little bit on the big side rather than on the small side. So I thought that was a better choice. Quite honestly, a 3.5 versus a 3.445 or whatever the factory one is, it's not going to show hardly any difference. And also, well, you're just talking about peak flow numbers. No, I'm not. I just gave those out really quickly, but we flowed it through the whole range from 50,000s up to 450,000s. And the head that was better at 450,000s was also better all the way through. The early G head was better, at least the two heads that I flowed. The early G head was better than the swirl head everywhere, but on the intake and on the exhaust, less. The difference on the exhaust was much less. And I'll, in the video that I do on all of that testing, I'll put all the numbers up side by side so everybody will be able to see them. But that's not the whole story, because there's a big difference, or there's enough of a difference in the chamber volume between the combustion chambers on both these heads. One of them is smaller than the other. So one of them is going to have more compression. The swirl head's going to have more compression. There's also a sizable difference in the design of the combustion chamber. So the swirl head has a swirl dam or pad on it. And we can take a look at that. Matter of fact, we can walk over there and I can show you the difference. And we should do that right now. Richard, why don't you stop talking about it? Why don't you be about it? All right, then. Why don't you stop arguing with yourself? We're take a look at those chambers, and you guys can kind of tell me what you think. One of them, the G head's definitely bigger, and the other one is designed differently. So we'll take a look at this. You can see this is the bathtub head, the G head, OG head. So you can see this is a swirl head. Let's see, I'll get in there and see. You can see how that would induce swirl. And this has got a weird thing right here. I also don't like this. And that's got to be a locating thing because this one has it too. Hard to see there, but it also has it. And what I'm going to do, so you can look at both of those kind of side by side. So a dramatic difference in one of them almost, if you were, I mean, if you're an old school guy, open chamber versus closed chamber, but also the swirl hump that's there. You know, we saw that in some of the other designs, like the 462 valve had the swirl dam in there. Some of the GM stuff I think had that, and so it was pretty common thing back in the day to try. And you know, the thing is with a different chamber design, they're going to want different timing levels, and they're going to respond to it. It's I get people telling me, "Oh, yeah, that one will take a lot more timing." I'm like, "No, you're actually looking at that incorrectly. If it requires more timing, usually that means the chamber is less efficient, or it could just be bigger. If it's bigger, a lot of times it's going to want more timing so that you can, you know, take the flame travel time into account." There's a lot going on there, and so just the fact that I flowed it and got more airflow from one of the heads is the start of all of this conversation. In the end, it will come down to, we go from the flow bench. I'll measure the port volumes. I think I'm going to try to measure both the intake and the exhaust port volumes, the combustion chamber volume, and then we'll put it on the dyno and then we'll do a back-to-back head test. The other thing I'm going to do, and I should have stayed over there and show you, is we're going to, I just found out today, I just measured it when I was talking to Ben from the car farm. We can run both the slider and the roller follower on the same camshaft. So what I think I'm going to do is, I'm still kind of deciding, but what I think I'm going to do is we're going to run the roller cam with the roller follower and then also with the slider follower, and we'll just do a follower swap so that I don't change the camshaft, so that we see just what the effect or not effect that the follower has. So the two things are going to happen with the roller follower that are not going to happen with the slider follower. One is that we're thinking that the roller should reduce friction. Instead of sliding, it should reduce friction. We see that on the LS. The LS has a roller fulcrum. Does it do anything? That answer is, it'd be really hard to measure. But because this thing slides over the pad, it's all slider and no roller at all, whereas the roller one is all roller. So interesting to see that neither one of them have roller tips. The tips are sliders anyways, and they're locating tips on the valves. So it'll be interesting to see if there is a measurable change in friction that we see as power. And if we do, we can extrapolate two things from that. One, we can think that if there's measurable power gain, we get more power, which is nothing but good. The other thing is that we might be able to improve fuel mileage by doing that. The big thing that I would do if you want to get better fuel mileage from your turbo Dodge Omni is you need to increase the static compression ratio. That will definitely improve the fuel economy. But the other thing that could happen with the roller follower is it's lighter. So it may gain power just from that thing being lighter, which could also help both power and potentially fuel mileage if that's a thing. So it'll be an interesting test. And that's why I want to do it with the same camshaft, because I don't want the cam profile to come into play. And I know people are going to really nitpick this thing, and that's why I brought it up. They're going to nitpick this thing as well, but the slider follower was actually designed for the other cam profile, and the roller was designed for the roller cam profile, yada, yada, yada. I get all that, but we're just trying to find out. We're just trying to test one thing at a time. Then it will be the wrong cam all over again on the 2.2, which will be awesome. And then we're going to try a number of different cams. I talked to a gentleman today about 8.1 and about the industrial versions of that motor, the 8.8, which is going to be very cool. Also about porting kind of a variety of different heads, including possibly a 4200 Atlas head, which I'm very excited about. And he wants to take a look at these 2.2 heads. So there might be something there. I told him I was going to send him a picture of the 2 chambers because he's looking at. He also does chamber mods on L series Nissans, which I want to take a look at. So it'll be, there's a lot of good potential there, including potentially a big bang for the 8.1. So I'm kind of excited about that. I don't know how much power that thing can make, but they do have good heads for it. And so they, with good heads, head studs, MLS gaskets, ring gap, and then we, run boost and kind of see what happens. As a 496, we're going to have to worry about even more torque than we would with the 454, I think. So it'll be cool. What else do we got going on? Oh, but when I was talking to him, we were also talking about camshafts because I told him that I want to do a camshaft on the 2.2, and I want to do a camshaft that has the numbers that I want, it has the specs that I want, because I would tend to err toward a little bit bigger cam than probably most people run. And I would also want a dual pattern cam that favors the exhaust. And I would want to run something that's going to be, low to mid 500 lift. And all of that can be made to work with the right head. But I would want something that's where it's going to want to make power at a little higher engine speed. And I know that's also on the 2.2 Dodge stuff. That's also going to lose guys because, we want immediate boost response, which everybody does. And so you could pick a camshaft for that. You can't pick a camshaft for that and then, because you have to pick also a turbo for that. So you'd want to make a low speed power, and a camshaft actually isn't going to make a lot of low speed power at 2000 RPM. But if you want to make power at 6500, the cam and the ported head and the intake design that you would have for that combination, and then subsequently the turbo size that you would have to make power up there would be different than you would have for a normal street car. So we'll see lots of street stuff in the testing, and then hopefully with a ported head and maybe a Super Ritchie intake manifold, if the 1-piece and the 2-piece don't take me where we want to go, then a version of that would allow us to run. We want to make, if in a turbo and intake manifold, then we could, I think, make. So let's see what you guys got going on. But did you try lawnmower carburetor? I do. I was talking to Brule about that, about the lawnmower carburetor thing, and because we were talking about the Edelbrock carburetor, and he showed me the 3D printed of the metering block, and it's clear, so we can see all the intersecting passages. It was very, very cool. But then we got to talking about making fuel mileage with the carburetor, and he's like, I don't really understand that. And he said, I don't know how it could do that. Yeah, we can have another size carburetor give us the fuel that we want. So I need to watch that video. I haven't watched the whole thing, so I need to watch it and see what else he did to get 40 miles per gallon out of that combination. So is the Iron LQ4 heads the same flow numbers as 317? I honestly have not flowed them. They look identical to me because I have seen a set. The original Jet 3 Big Bang motor that I did that came from Chad Reynolds was an early iron-headed motor. They look identical, but I did not. I think we ran that thing. I need to go. Now you have me wondering. I think we ran that thing on the engine dyno when it was stock. And so I need to go look and see if that's the case. Wanting to put my LT9 with sloppy stage 2, had the 706, but the heads were bad when I bought the motor. So you can put you want to put the 317s. I don't think I'd put iron ones on there. Just go get another 706s. You can get them cheap from the wrecking yard. I might have to go get another one. OBW cams. Yeah, we're going to run a couple of the stock cams, the turbo cams that we have. I'm going to run the TBI cam. I'm wondering if the slider TBI cam is going to be better than the roller version of the TBI cam. I'm going to run those because, that's another common misconception that, the NA cam is not going to work good for a turbo. And when people say stuff like that, it needs to be defined. What do you mean? If it makes more power NA, it's going to make more power at any given boost level. But are guys talking about the fact that maybe it's because it's making more power at a higher engine speed? Maybe, I don't know what the specs are on the cam. But if it is doing that, is it softer down low? Is that because of overlap? Actually, overlap can actually help low speed torque. So it's a whole discussion. Yeah, swirl is for, they didn't do that for power. Suzuki had twin swirl combustion chambers designed to clean up emissions. The Civic VX induced a swirl too by staggering the two valves that they open. I still don't understand why Hemis have twin plugs. They have a really bad chamber design, and they're trying to get to fire the whole chamber, and it's hard. Richard, would you do a 221 Ford? I don't think I've ever seen one of those. I have seen the 260s, but I don't think I've ever seen a 221. Mexico City again, house. Oh, Michael, we need a poll. All right. I'm hoping this is an easy one. So the poll for tonight is, should we go make a dyno poll on the cammed 5.3 liter L33? Let's see what people have to say. It's Friday night. Got a party. Adam, the 221, was it only a 1 year vehicle? Oh, you have a Ford question for people. So all my Ford people out there, or other people that are not on the live watching this later on, I am in need. Actually, I am not in need. Mark Sanchez is in need of a set of Iron Dart or World Product. I can't remember who made them. Windsor Senior heads, not the Windsor Juniors, the Windsor Seniors, or just Windsors, whatever they're called. So if anybody has any of those heads, please get in contact with me and let me know, so that I can get you in contact with them, so that they can get those. They're looking specifically for those heads for a very specific application. So if you have something like that, please let me know. In the early 80s, Mitsubishi had jet valves to induce swirl. Yeah, and the CVC stuff was kind of a similar attempt. They were just doing a pre-charge and then introducing that, so that they could have a very easy to ignore mixture and get better fuel mileage. 255, that's the later ones, right? Those are the 80s ones. Richard, did you get a hold of Turbo Monza? I have spoken with him, not for a week or so now, but I did before. Cord's probably voted no. He's just here for the 2.2 stuff. He got his dose of 2.2. He should be happy. Was the Roush the same as the Windsor Senior 200 cc's? I think it was. I think that was just a Windsor head that they put Roush's name on. It was a private label deal. Can you put a high ram on a 4.8 liter? Yeah, bolts right on. Bolts right on to any of those. If it's a cathedral port, bolts on to any of the cathedral 4853 or 60. It's not a great choice for a 4.8 unless you're going to rev it really high. Thanks, Noodles. Thanks for ruining it for us. The L59 is turbo at 475. 4th gen rods, going to crank the boost way up. with a 475, so you're going to crank it up to 1,000 horsepower. Crank the boost way up to offset the large chambers, like 25 psi. If it's a cammed 5.3, it's probably not even going to need 25 psi to make the power that you want, especially on E85. It should be able to top that turbo out before that. The 220s, 260s, and early 289s use a special, yeah, they had a different bell housing. I wonder if we have, I'd have to ask Mark. I wonder if he has one of those early bell housings. I don't think we have one there. I don't think there's one here at WESTECH. Richard, would you ever do an all RPM build? The problem with running real high RPM stuff is it's really, really expensive. And so that's why I normally don't do that. That doesn't really cater to the normal everyday kind of guy. And that's more what I'm interested in helping. A guy that's building a cup motor that's going to rev. Like what Ben does is awesome over at EFI University. So shout out to Ben. But that's not, it's really cool to watch, but it's not, you know, it's not beneficial to a guy going to the wrecking yard. He's not going to emulate it, and he's not going to put a 1-inch lift camshaft in there or try to run a motor to 11,000 RPM. I'm all in on that. I think it's fantastic. And it shows a lot of really cool technology, but for me, it's way too expensive to do. GMC, just wondering, I'm trying to build a 4.8, but not sure what I want to do with it. There's a lot of 4.8 videos up. Just tell me what you're trying to do with it. Is it like a tow vehicle? Is it a daily driver? Is it something you want to do burnouts in? Boost is the easiest thing to do to a 4.8 make power. Put a very small camshaft in it and a reasonably sized turbo on a 4.8, and you'll be happy. Richard, I bet you could do it. It's not a matter of can I do it? I can, but it's still expensive. I've done 8,000 RPM stuff already. An 8,000 RPM LS motor is not hard to do. That's the right cam and the right springs and then a motor from the junkyard, and it will rev to 8,000. It's real high RPM stuff that becomes problematic. Truck Norris 4.8 versus a 6.0. I don't. What is your question about that? The Truck Norris works in both of those. Brian's run a Truck Norris. I think they ran it in a 6.2 also. That turbo Porsche that the guy was running tonight sounded really good because it had a good combination of you could hear the thing come up on the turbo, and then it ran enough RPM to where it was carrying. I think it was running 8,000 RPM. They turned it down for the subsequent runs, but it had gone to 8,000, which is pretty nice. It's challenging us to vote no. You could just say, yeah, I want to do that. I think that sounds cool. There's nothing wrong with saying that. Stock rotaries turn 9,000. Yeah, those are good. And a stock S2000 Honda will go to 9,000 once you take the factory rev limiter off. I saw that I missed a golden opportunity. I put up a short reel on Facebook and probably Instagram too and I think I used it in one of the videos where it was on because this was the exhaust that was on the trophy 4-cylinder. So it showed the extension pipe that I bolted onto the exhaust had the 3-bolt flange, and when it was running, because it's a 4-cylinder and it's not balanced very well, the 3-bolt flange was just like, you know, spinning around as the thing was idling, it was running around. And I missed a golden opportunity to tell people that this is a running example of what a rotary engine looks like. This is the external version of that. I remember watching American Le Mans as a kid. Those Porsches go crazy. Oldsmobile Rocket Parts used to offer titanium rods for the Quad 4. .53 with better VE at 8,000. It's about are not going to make power at 8,000. It's going to be way past the power peak. 4.8 versus 6.0. Have you tested both? I've tested every displacement LS you can possibly imagine. So yes. In fact, there's already a video up of a stock 4.8, a stock 5.3, and a stock 6.0, and then also a stock 6.3 or 6.2. So you can see what the power curves are on all of those. And a couple of old racers that raced Mazda RX-3s and 4s. I used to race against the IT versions for those when I first started showroom stock racing, when I was down the San Diego area. It was El Centro, I think, was the racehorse down there, and those things were really loud. But I really liked them. I like the shape of the cars and stuff, and I like the sound. They were very, very cool. An 86 GSXR 750, I think it was 12 or 13. I'd have to go back and look at mine. Have you ever tested a 904 optimized lifter cam? You mean, have I ever built a custom cam for that 904 lifter? I don't think I have. In class racing, they double the size of the rotary to make it equal. Yeah, they did that in because the RX-7s used to dominate GTU way back in the day. I would like to build one. I would like to put one together and run it, run some NA stuff and run some turbo stuff on it. Yeah, Mike, the 3-rotor and 4-rotor stuff, I'm sure that starts getting expensive. GMC, what can you do to a 4.8? You can do the same stuff to a 4.8 that you can any other motor. Ported, I mean, take a look at the videos. You can do ported heads. You can do an intake, all the various intake manifolds, all the various cylinder heads, all the various camshafts, all the turbos, all the blowers, all that stuff is possible on a 4.8. KKMF. They're very easy to build wrong. Are you talking about the rotaries? Wow. 250cc 4-stroke bikes revved of 19,000. It's a lot. Be fun to have an RX-7 Turbo 2. I think that's what I'm thinking that's what Oliver has. I think that the RX-7 he has is a Turbo 2. How much machine work is required to make an LS3 style head work on a smaller bore LS? Nothing on a 6-liter, but I think you just have to notch the bores on the smaller ones. That's what I'm going to do on a 4.8 or a 5.3. Man. I got to grab a drink of water. You talking amongst yourselves. Why do you want to get your own right? Can I have my Costco beverage ready? Ready and wait. Frosty cold beverage. Frosty cold beveraggio. Let's see. The internet still doesn't know how to build rotaries. Even with Rob Dahm on the internet, Rob seems to know how to make power from those. How much cam is in the L33 5.3? Right now, it has a sloppy stage 2 in it. It has adult water in it. If that's it, if that's your question. That's right. Stay hydrated, my friend. Plugged in? Yep, we're so good. What's the right cam for my stroke rotary? Do you? Are we making 5.3 pulls? Should we do that? Yeah, I think we should. How's our poll doing? Still 92% saying yes. So you 8%, you can and not be part of this. You can stand in the corner and think about your life choices. Just think about your choices. Why you want to give me the run around? Okay, you guys sit here and be nice. Turn on our pumps. Turn on lambda. Okay. Stir it up. Buttercup. Okay. Here we are. Oh, it's not cooperating right now. We don't even need that to start it. Fuel pressure up, 60 psi. Live. It is live. Turn the water pump on. You are not cooperating. Gotta get it all warmed up. Gotta warm it up. Should have a show called Budget Boost or Meter Power. Butters give you budget to use the data on the vehicle to build it. Only then you gotta drive it a week. 375 horsepower for what? This motor makes more than 375 horsepower. This thing makes serious power. Still not. I wonder why my don't know why my Holly is not cooperating. If I get this, come on. Gotta check the connection outside. And what the problem is, I came and stole my comm cable. Man, criminals. It is their dyno. Arc, that's pretty good. So are we guessing how much power it's gonna make? Yeah, it was kind of janky. But the motor sounded rough like a misfire. Wow. Just wow. Well, might still need it. I don't know. I think I gotta get my comm cable. let's see what happens when it rolls in. So 435 horsepower and 409 foot-pounds. But it actually makes, if we made another run, it would make more. This is my junkyard motor. Oh, yeah, I'll move you over here. Bring up one of the fronts. That off. So here's 438 horsepower and 14 foot-pounds of torque. It's got a nice curve. A little bit. It's nice and smooth. Fancy. We'll let everything cool off so I can swap cams now. Got a good curve. Pretty decent power. I mean, there's obviously a lot of cams for that. I mean, or at least cams that will make a lot more power, a lot more peak power. In fact, we'll probably see, might see one of those tonight. The intake is a factory truck intake manifold, early one, not a Trailblazer SS. Are already down to 102 degrees. Shut the water off. Okay, so and for the guys that are interested in, it has 29 degrees of timing from 5,000 out to out to 7,000 basically, and it has 22 degrees at 3,000, 22 or 23, and then kind of ramps up to 29 between there and 5,000. It actually wanted a little bit more timing than I thought it did down there, because we tried doing what you would normally do on a carbureted application. You know, you'd have your distributor all in by 3,000 RPM and run 29 degrees everywhere, but it didn't really gain power than running less timing down low, especially at 3,000. So I like having lower timing levels there, especially if you have it in a car and are not running it at 120 or 30 degrees. You know, it's not going to detonate there. But in a car, you definitely will. So if you had 29 degrees locked all the way across, it just wouldn't be it wouldn't run very well. Or you would take a bigger chance on detonating if you're loading at 3,000 RPM. What cams am I going to try? I have a Brian Tooley Racing low lift truck Norris cam, so a sub 500 lift truck Norris cam. I have a 200 and I have the hot rod cam from Brian Tooley. I have a smaller version that's, I think one of them is a 220 or 217. The other one is a 22 or something like that. 21 or 22 or 23. And then I have a couple of Elgin cams. One of them is a 227, I think. So we'll see. You know, you guys will see all of it. I can't hear and I can't see. That's not a good. Cam and head specs. The motor is a stock 5.3 L33 from the wrecking yard. It has 799 heads from the factory. It has a truck manifold. It had a sloppy stage 2 cam, which is a 228, 230, and 585 lift, I think. It has 1 3/4 headers on it. Don't forget the E3 spark plugs. Yep. Heavy Summit Racing Stage 4 Turbo Cam. It's one of the 237, 234. I think I'll pass on that. Will a 237, 240, 234 even fit stock piston to valve clearance? Truck Norris cam shows great performance throughout the range. Why a Truck Norris Light? A low lift Truck Norris cam is for guys that don't want to change springs, that all they do is want to put the cam in. And I thought it was a great idea, although it's not, it's like I said, guys seem to be more prone to want to get the higher lift version and change the springs. I thought guys would flock to that, not having to change the springs. Richard, is there a poor man's way of finding out the time to advance the ignition timing from idle to peak just by ear? You can't do that by just free revving it. You can listen for detonation, I guess. The audio is cutting out. The internet here is not very good. Listen for detonation. That's hard to do. It's not, but it would be tough in the car. If you have a combination, we can probably tell you what the wide open. I could probably tell you what the wide open throttle timing curve should be, or give you a pretty good idea. Yeah, you can read the spark plug ground straps. You can read timing marks on the ground strap. 2 more minutes. Been here an hour and 5 already. Time flies. 370, is it a 370? Mike, I don't know what 377 it is. Is it a Ford or Chevy? Is it LS? Is it a 2JZ? Richard, have you ever tested valve springs on your junkyard LS engines for comparing to as new specs? Are you asking if I've checked the valve spring rate to what they advertise? Philip, off topic, you can answer, you can ask whatever questions you want here, but have you tested an LO3 or an LO5 TBI engine? Or would you just convert instead of working with that? I would like to run a TBI just to show the limitations of the fueling in the TBI, so I could show people what that is. But it would be better just to put a dual plane and a carburetor on it. So we have a bad connection on my. Found out Chrysler made a turbine power car. Yeah, back in the 60s. Turbine powered. How about if I whisper? Mike, give me the tune. What tune do you want? Chris, I'm sorry I'm late. Rocking an LQ9, nice. 4L60 or 4L80E, 72 Nova. Cleaning out the parts bin. Derek at LNR's finished my engine next week. Super excited. 468, AFR 265, 294 cam, 23 cc. That should make good power. I have an NOS TBI heads in the shop. Yeah, ARC, it is no L69, that's for sure. I think the stock L69. Oh no, we ran the LB9. That was 260 horsepower, 265 horsepower. I think I'm guessing that an L69 305 would probably be like the 5-liter is. It'd probably be 250 or something. Another fiver. Thanks, Mike. Noodles, every spring that we've ever tested out of the box was the rate that it said it was. Sometimes they're a little bit over that. I think that they did that because we know that when we run it, it'll go down slightly and take a set, but I've never found any that were bad. We have found bad springs, but only from the offshore companies, but they don't have any spring rates on their boxes anyway. They just said these are LS springs, and after testing, we're like, no, they're not. Daryl, which head David Vizard port for you? It's an early bathtub head. It's probably like the one we have here. I'm thinking. I don't remember. I don't even remember the. I don't remember the casting number on it. I want the Muy Caliente Spicy Big Bang Forge Edition for my engine. Have you seen a Godzilla engine in person? I don't think I have. Mike's in the house. Mike, do you need a 8.1? Oh, Noodles. Oh, you were asking about a stock valve spring from a wrecking yard to see if it was still the same. They actually are surprisingly good from the wrecking yard. Yeah, Mike, you would be a good tuner if you put 27 everywhere. Put self-tuning, because the self-tuning is not going to adjust the timing, right? It's only going to adjust the air fuel. Yeah, Mike, that's always the way. If you could somehow get a Whipple like the Banks has on, Banks, yeah, ran on the Duramax. Oliver has that L69. It's a low mileage stock one. It would be cool to run. How does Porsche extract some power from a small engine and still produce torque? Well, they don't. The specific torque output is not anything that's out of the ordinary. Oh yeah, gotta have long runners and manifold volume, twin front inlets. I was talking to the guy that has the Porsche here that was running it because he was saying that he was we were talking about the camshafts he's running in it, and we were talking about the RPM that he's running, and I was asking about the intake manifold. So I'm like, did you obviously shorten, because he was running an old set of like 3.2 Carrera manifolds, I think, and has since changed them to. I was asking if there was something shorter given the RPM range that he was running, and he said, yeah, these are definitely shorter than what was on there before. VVT helps with torque, yes, and so does variable runner length does too, and then Porsche has been doing variable plenums, I think, for a while too. Porsche has VGT. Do they use variable vane on their combinations? I didn't know that they did that. I know that I didn't they do didn't the 959 have sequential turbos or something on it? I think, yeah, they do. They definitely do it with money. That's true. And on that note, it's time to go. What time is it? Oh man, what are you guys doing? 8:21. That's too late. Actually, thank you guys all for showing up on a Friday night. Hopefully, you guys, I'm not taking away from doing stuff that's like super fun. But now I get to go tear into that 5.3 liter and stick another cam and do some tuning after I find where those guys put the comm cable at. I'll definitely need to tune it when I put a different camshaft in it, unless I put the wrong cam in it. Coming up, I will see you all tomorrow.